So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our listeners and viewers around the world. So today is an introduction to 5 steps in success as a leader in this new challenging era. In conversation is myself, Paul Northey, industry leader with 30 years experience and entrepreneur, and Peter Coxon, consultant in organization and development psychology, and founder of and MD of 1.3 Leadership Development. So, Peter, my first question: what is 1.3? Why did you call your company 1.3?
Thank you for asking, Paul. Well, 1.3 is actually the average weight in kilograms of the human brain, and that's where we focus our attention. We help you get the best out of your 1.3, particularly as you strive to find a way of leading your teams and your organization through this new era.
Good. So we talked in the introduction about the concept of a new era. So what do you see as ultimately this new era, and how would you define it?
Well, the same as everyone else probably. If you just reflect on what we're going through, it's a massive transformation, isn't it? There's the whole climate change and the road to zero and that sense of urgency. There's the whole global recession, quite frankly, that's people are trying to deny at some levels, but is actually happening. There's the whole Brexit transition, and then of course the whole pandemic catastrophe, which has created unbelievable implications for us. In terms of our business operation, but also for many of us in terms of our mental health.
It's certainly, I'm sure it's challenging times. If it's challenging times for us, I'm sure it's challenging for our listeners and viewers. You mentioned climate change, which is always the pervasive thing that's in the background, which maybe people park to one side, but I think sustainability is also going to be a critical aspect of leadership in the future. And I think this is going to be a topic which will grow and grow. So what do you see as the challenges that leaders have to overcome moving forward?
Well, so it's already been a time of extraordinary upheaval, and many leaders have had to react so quickly and to such enormous and unprecedented challenges that they've had no experience of. And a number of people are already talking about the imposter syndrome. Their role has been so different to anything that they've been prepared for. They can't easily draw on their expertise, on their experience. Instead, they're feeling unprepared, unqualified, quite inexperienced, and sometimes feeling not cut out for this world. How can I lead when I don't know which way is forward, which way is up? I don't know what to do for the best.
So what guidance and what topics do you think people in leadership positions, or people who are, let's say, aspire to leadership positions, what are the critical things they should really focus on?
Well, one of the things that's coming out in all the literature, of course, is the need to be agile in reacting to all these imposed changes, needing to rethink and to ask people within the organization, but also outside, how can we best solve this? How can we best work together? How can I manage and lead remotely for many people, as you know? Increasingly, we've got hybrid teams, people working at home, some people working at work, some people doing 50-50, some people coming into work for just one day a week. So we need to maintain high levels of communication, because when there's a gap, there's going to be rumor mongering coming in. Of course, how to cut costs, but many people have been having to look at that. How to make the difficult decisions that are going to affect people's lives without damaging staff morale. How to maintain your employees and your own motivations and your own work ethics. How then to look forward to see opportunities, and how to innovate and actually start to see what the implications are of these new normals in terms of doing things differently. You see, we can manage change quite well when we're in charge of it, when we're deciding on those changes that we want to drive forward. But actually, when it feels more like a series of tsunami waves breaking over you, then it's hard to keep our heads above water. It's hard to find the higher ground, to be able to stand up and look back and think and react at speed and plan ahead and be our absolute best.
Mm.
You know the old phrase, when the tough, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. But now that the going is unbelievable, and therefore we're going to need some unbelievable leadership, some extraordinary leaders and extraordinary teams, and they are the people who I believe will prevail.
Yeah, I think from my personal experience, I think you have to really solidify what your core values are. Yeah, you have to really think about what are the things which are almost beyond your business. What are your critical values? How are you going to make your business sustainable, and how are you going to address the next crisis? Yeah, and how are you going to create that level of resilience? We clearly have a lot of technology. Imagine this situation 20 years ago. Yeah, this would be on a conference call. The whole world would have been working on conference calls. It literally would have been a dreadful experience. Yeah. So I think the technology we have certainly helps, but that social interaction with people is what inspires me personally, and really that sparkiness of ideas, that innovation, that thought creation. Yes, you can have that bathtub moment on the light bulb, but it's often created by that dynamic between people. Yeah. And I think this is going to be one of the key challenges moving forward. Yeah.
Well, you're absolutely right, Paul. You touched on a couple of things there straight away. I think as a psychologist, my interest in people has always told me there's nothing more interesting than a human, other than a number of humans working together. There's nothing more complex either.
No.
But it beats any of my computer friends' views of what goes on in IT.
Yeah.
So yes, we need to look at ourselves first of all, our values, what we stand for, and then how do we best interact with others?
Yeah.
Two greatest challenges, you might argue.
Yeah.
But what I would like to do, Paul, over these podcasts is certainly offer my own views from my work with so many different people around the world for far too long, I'm afraid to say. I also want to draw on some of the research and the current literature.
Yeah.
And I'll ask you, the listeners, if you like, questions that might help you consider your own situation. And I'll invite you to send us messages yourselves with your own challenges, your views, your solutions. And we'd like to share some of those later along the way, and maybe have some interactive discussions with you as well.
Yeah, that would be excellent. I think
Okay.
if we can build let's say a community that engages and discusses with us and utilizes both of our experiences, I think we can make a positive difference. So in conclusion, Peter, we talked about 5 steps. So what are the 5 steps, and ultimately this will be the agenda of the podcasts and the YouTube videos over the next coming weeks.
Yes, indeed. So I'll quickly throw in my only clean psychologist joke, which is, how many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? Which the answer is only one, but the light bulb's got to want to change. So as we look at this, I will ask questions. Another role of a psychologist is to ask good questions without knowing the answer. So I'm not going to be full of just tips and advice all the time, because each situation is different. But I will try and ask some stimulating questions to get people to think. So have a notepad, note down some of the questions, and then later on work them through yourself and with your own team.
In conclusion, Peter, what do you see as the 5 critical steps for leadership in this challenging modern era?
Well, first of all, we need to take a look at the big picture, the way forward, the long-term view.
Yeah.
Secondly, we need to use our head. tune into the logical, rational thinking. Thirdly, we need to acknowledge the big barriers that will stop us from succeeding if we don't do something about it. And fourthly, whilst doing that, we need to stay close to our heart. We need to look at our own emotional intelligence and look at maintaining the relationships with others. And fifthly, we need to look to develop a rich and a fertile culture.
Yeah, so I think those 5 topics really resonate with me and my previous experiences. So please tune in, listen, watch for next week's podcast, where the focus will be on the big picture, where myself and Peter will explore that as a topic and provide some guidance for your leadership aspirations and your leadership objectives moving forward. So as always, Peter, it's a great pleasure to be in your company, and I really enjoyed the introduction. So looking forward to the follow-up sessions, which I think will be a really excellent resource for listeners and viewers.